phone call that took place on January 6th between Trump and Kevin McCarthy, when McCarthy called Trump, pleading for him to stop the rioters. I've spoken to multiple Republican members of the House who have knowledge of that call, who tell us that after Trump tried to say to Kevin, "These are not my people, it's Antifa," Kevin McCarthy said to Trump, "No, it's not Antifa. These are your people." After he said that, Trump said to McCarthy, quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are." To which McCarthy responded, "Who the F do you think you're talking to?"
What is going on, everybody? So after another day of impeachment, we got this bombshell report about a phone call between McCarthy and Trump during the insurrection. Now, there had been rumblings about this phone call before, but today we actually had it confirmed from a couple of different Republican officials. I have an article here. We'll go over it. We'll talk about it. But man, this just really puts, after today, I don't understand how anyone in the GOP can defend Trump, even though I know they still will. But this just goes to show how far partisan hackery really can go. But let's go over this article. You heard a little bit of it in the clip I played before this, but we'll break it all down. It says, in an explicit-laced phone call with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy while the Capitol was under attack, then President Donald Trump said the rioters cared more about the election results than McCarthy did. I mean, can you just imagine going with that while someone's yelling at you like, "Hey, get your people." Like, apparently he first tried to blame Antifa, and then when that didn't work, when McCarthy was like, "No, dude, these are your people," he went with the, "Well, I guess they just care and you don't." And I can just see him, "I guess they just care, Kevin. They just care about me. You don't care about me." The worst part about this is a week after that, Kevin McCarthy was down in Mar-a-Lago kissing the ring. But, do what you got to do to stay in power, I guess. "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are," Trump said, according to the lawmakers who were briefed on the call afterwards by McCarthy. McCarthy insisted that the rioters were Trump supporters and begged Trump to call them off. Trump's comments set off Republican lawmakers familiar with the call, described as a shouting match between the two men. A furious McCarthy told the then president the rioters were breaking into his office through the windows, and asked Trump, "Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?" according to the Republican lawmaker familiar with the call. The newly revealed details of the call, described to CNN by multiple Republicans briefed on it, provide critical insight into the president's state of mind as the rioters were overrunning the Capitol. The existence of the call and some of its details were first reported by Punchbowl News and discussed publicly by McCarthy. Like I said, he's talked about this a little bit, but we didn't get the full picture until today. The Republican members of Congress said the exchange showed Trump had no intention of calling off the rioters, even as lawmakers were pleading with him to intervene. Several said it amounted to a dereliction of his presidential duty. That's the understatement of the century. "He is not a blameless observer. He was rooting for them," a Republican member of Congress said on January 13th. Kevin McCarthy said on the floor of the House that the president bears responsibility, and he does. And you know what? Even as low as the bar is, I was actually surprised when McCarthy did that because, yeah, the bar is that low, but it's Kevin McCarthy, so I didn't really expect him to call Trump out at all. But when he said Trump had some blame in it, I was kind of surprised. I guess we know why now. Speaking to the president from inside the besieged Capitol, McCarthy pressed Trump to call off his supporters and engaged in a heated disagreement about who comprised the crowd. Trump's comments about the would-be insurrectionists caring more about the election results than McCarthy did was first mentioned by Representative Jamie Herrera Butler, a Republican from Washington State, in a town hall earlier this week, and was confirmed to CNN by Herrera Butler and another Republican briefed on the conversation. You have to look at what he did during the insurrection to confirm where his mind was at. Herrera Butler, one of the 10 House Republicans who voted last month to impeach Trump, told CNN. That line right there demonstrates to me that he either didn't care, which is impeachable because you cannot allow an attack on your soil, or he wanted it to happen and was okay with it, which makes me so angry. We should never stand for that for any reason under any party flag, she added, voicing her extreme frustration. I'm trying really hard not to say the F word. I think it speaks to the former president's mindset, said Rep. Anthony Gonzalez, an Ohio Republican, who also voted to impeach Trump last month. He was not very sorry to see his unyieldingly loyal vice president or Congress under attack by the mob he inspired. In fact, it seemed he was very happy about it, or at least enjoyed the scenes that were horrifying to most Americans across the country. I think every single day we're getting more and more evidence that that's the case. He was enjoying this. He was getting a kick out of this. It made him happy. It got him off that these people would storm the Capitol in his name for his cause, for a bullshit reason that he completely made up, a complete lie, the big lie. He was able to get people to attack all of our government because of him, and he was not in danger in the least. Mike Pence, the guy who's been a day one, nobody's been more loyal to him than Mike Pence, doesn't even call him, doesn't even bother to check on him, and nobody even gets there to help him out for several hours. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd if you could think anything other than he enjoyed this whole thing. And it really seems like he's going to face no consequences for it. If he ran if he ran in the Republican Party today, he'd probably still win the nomination. Okay, anyway, where were we? As the senators prepared to determine Trump's fate, multiple Republicans thought the details of the call were important to the proceedings because they believe it paints a damning portrait of Trump's lack of action during the attack. At least one of the sources who spoke to CNN took detailed notes of McCarthy's recounting of the call. Trump and McCarthy did not respond to requests for comment. It took Trump several hours after the attack began to eventually encourage his supporters to go home in peace, a tweet that came at the urging of his top aide. At Trump's impeachment trial Friday, his lawyers argued that Trump did in fact try to calm the rioters with a series of tweets while the attack unfolded, but his lawyers cherry-picked his tweets, focusing on the request for his supporters to remain peaceful without mentioning that he also attacked the then Vice President, Mike Pence, and waited hours to explicitly urge rioters to leave the Capitol, and then called them what? Beautiful people. Said, "Oh, you got to go home now. I love all you beautiful people." Yeah, so I don't know if I call that trying to keep the crowd peaceful. Just a total horseshit argument, but I wouldn't really expect anything less out of these horseshit lawyers. A source close to Pence said Trump's legal team was not telling the truth when attorney Michael Van Der Veen said at the trial that at no point did the then president know his vice president was in danger. Asked whether Van Der Veen was lying, the source said yes. Former Pence aides are still fuming over Trump's actions on January 6, insisting he never checked on the vice president as Pence was being rushed from danger by his U.S. Secret Service detail. It's unclear to what extent these new details were known by the House Democratic impeachment managers or whether the team considered calling McCarthy as a witness. The managers have preserved the option to call witnesses in the ongoing impeachment trial, although the option remains unlikely as the trial winds down. The House Republican leader had been forthcoming with his conference about the details of his conversations with Trump on and after January 6. Trump himself has not taken any responsibility in the public. This story has been updated from additional reportings. So there you have it. That pretty much sums up this story, but this is absolutely absurd. This is a complete dereliction of duty, and how anyone in the GOP could still defend Trump after this is just absolutely beyond me. I mean, I know at this point the GOP has no soul. I'm kind of used to that. Really, Trump could shoot somebody literally on Fifth Avenue and it wouldn't blow my mind that the GOP was still defending him. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, they're defending him till the day he dies, no matter what. If it'll get them 6 more votes, they're defending him. But the Democrats don't need to settle on this. They don't need to just, tread lightly here. They need to be calling witnesses, and we need to get to the bottom of this. Shit like this never needs to happen again. And the more we let shit like this slide, the more things will happen again. They're going to think they can get away with shit like this. This exact scenario might not happen again, But something crazy like this will happen again, and the GOP will just think they can get away with it because they're getting away with it right now. So why wouldn't they think they would get away with it again? Witnesses need to be called. We need to hear from Mike McCarthy. We need to hear from Mike Pence. We need to know exactly what happened. We need a timeline. We need a detailed timeline of what Trump knew, when he knew it, and when he tried to get these people help, and when he pushed back on the people that were doing the insurrection. His people, when he pushed back on them, when he knew what he knew, down to the second. Because him trying to play up, oh, I didn't know about this, or I didn't know about that until this time, and then that's when I called him off. Bullshit. I don't buy it. Not for 1 second. I don't believe that you didn't know Pence was in trouble. We need to hear from Tommy Tuberville. He needs to be called as a witness because he talked to Trump, and the only thing he apparently told Trump, or that Trump told him, was to try and delay the vote even more. So it's absolute. This whole thing is just a complete fucking shit show, and these people need to just rot somewhere. And whatever they do, they definitely don't need to be involved in politics anymore, especially Trump. But if we just let it go and nothing happens to them, there's no reason that they won't be. But anyway, thanks for watching another video, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave a like and a comment. It really helps me out with the algorithm. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. Otherwise, you will not get notified when I upload a video. But yeah, make sure you follow me on Twitch. And if you want to support the channel, link to my Patreon is down below. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Peace. Special shout out to my progressive tier patrons. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, BumbleBunny420. Thank you, Gabby. And thank you, Amy. You guys are absolutely amazing. If you want to support me on Patreon, the link's down below. You can also subscribe to me on Twitch. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.